Hello everyone, how's it going? Billy Ballgame here, back with another video. On this channel, I'm just a dude who loves to talk about baseball cards. And today's topic that I wanted to discuss is cards that maybe aren't always overproduced, but are available, but yet are still hard to find. And I'm talking mainly about shows, because anything we want to look for under the sun, we can find on eBay for the most part. So I wanted to kind of dig into this a little bit and show you some cards, kind of give you an idea what it is I'm talking about. But before that, I wanted to give a couple channel shout outs. So my buddy Ben from Blick's Cards sent me a care package yesterday. He had reached out to me one day, I think later last week or earlier this week, and it's Friday as I'm filming this video, by the way. But he reached out to me and said that he had discovered my email on my channel, and he had some stuff that he had put together that he wanted to send to me. And I can't believe what Ben sent me. It's insane. So you all know that I'm a Cardinals fan, and Ben sent me some amazing cards. And when I get a care package, like, I'm so excited. It doesn't matter. You could send me, a pair of rubber boots with a hole in the bottom, and just the fact that someone thought about me and wanted to send it to me, it makes it amazing. And so to me, it's not about the value of the cards. It's not about what is sent to me. It's just the fact that someone would think enough of me again to send something. So thank you once again, Ben. I can't tell you how amazing this is and how much I appreciate it. So one of the cards he sent me is a 56 Ken Boyer. So this is his second year card to go with his rookie card. And I'm going to get this graded. I don't care what it grades. I just think they would look great displayed together, and it's a great card. Like I've said many times and in many conversations, that to me, Topps was really in their prime. From 52 was really nice, but to me, 53 through 56 were, in my opinion, the best looking Topps baseball cards that they ever made. And again, I could throw 52 in there. I keep excluding 52, and I really like those too. So not only is the Ken Boyer amazing, and thank you once again, Ben, and I didn't know he lives in Oklahoma, and I live in Missouri, so depending on how far where he lives in Oklahoma, we may only be like 4 hours away. So maybe we could get together at a show in Springfield, Missouri or something at some point, if that's not too far away from you. So another amazing card he sent. This is a 62 Topps, obviously a Stan Musial. But what's absurd and mind-blowing to me about this card is, and I need to make sure that Ben realized it when he sent it, is that this one is a Venezuelan. So you can see the back is in Spanish, and this is the only Venezuelan that I own, and it's super cool that it's Stan Musial, and it's super cool that it was a gift from a friend and a member of the YouTube card community. And what is also kind of cool is the fact that it has Coach written on the back in ballpoint pen. And as you know, I coach baseball and basketball at my school, so this was just amazing. So thank you once again, Ben. And I'm not done yet, because I've got one more. I've got the 2001 Fleer Platinum Albert Pujols rookie card in an 8 that Ben sent to me. And just, this is too much, Ben. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate it. It's amazing. You're awesome. And just thank you so much. And the more I get involved in the card community and the YouTube card community, the more fun that I have within the hobby. And to kind of piggyback on Chris's video that he sent out earlier, I'm having the most fun in the hobby now and within the last, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 6, 8 months than I ever have in my life. And it's just, again, and I've talked about this on so many of my videos recently, it's just so awesome to have people that you consider friends that are just as big a geek as you are and love collecting pictures of mostly dudes that are no longer with us on cardboard. Like, that is our common bond that we all share together, that makes a lot of these guys instant friends as soon as you meet them. And I'm enjoying it so much. I'm having a blast. And so, speaking of the card community, and I'm gonna put a screen capture of Blick's Cards YouTube page. If you're not already subscribed to him, please do so. He's hanging out, I think 114 subscribers. I just checked before I started this video. And I want to give another shout out to another channel. So when I was at the National, at the YouTube meet and greet, I had a few people that subscribed to my channel that came up to me and wanted to talk to me and introduce themselves. And again, that's amazing to me that someone would care enough about what I say, flapping my gums in front of my camera, that they would want to come up and introduce themselves to me. Well, one of the guys that did that, his name is Joe. And Joe lives about 30 minutes in Missouri away from where I grew up. And so Joe and I and his buddy, sorry, Joe, I can't remember what your buddy's name was, Ben or Brian. It starts with a B. I'm old, I'm senile, I forget names. But he introduced his buddy to me, and his buddy lives even closer to where I grew up. His buddy lives about 20 minutes away from where I grew up. So it was an awesome conversation, and I'm so happy that I got to meet Joe and his buddy. Well, Joe sent me a text the other night and let me know that he had decided to start a YouTube channel. And I was like geeked up, super excited for Joe to kind of dive into the YouTube card community. And so Joe, the name of Joe's channel is Redneck Collector. Now, redneck and collector is one word, but please do not spell it collector. And again, I'm going to put a screen capture up here so you can see how to spell it. So it's spelled C-L-E-C-T-O-R. So if you know any rednecks, or maybe you have a slight tendency to be a redneck yourself, you will know that certain people that would consider themselves a redneck, or maybe Southern, a lot of the times we don't move our lips when we talk. So sometimes we don't enunciate words very well, and sometimes we will leave out complete syllables of words. So if you understand that connection, you will understand why he named his channel Redneck Collector instead of Redneck Collector. So please go check him out. He's done one video. He's going to the Machinist Hall show in St. Louis tomorrow, and hopefully he picks up some cards there and can do a St. Louis Machinist Hall show recap when he gets back tomorrow afternoon. But please check his channel out. He's a great dude. I'm so excited to have him as part of the card community. And he's also a Cardinals fan. And we need more Cardinals fans on YouTube, because there are way too many of you Yankee guys out there right now that are Yankees fans. And I'm going to do a video about that in the near future, about how the Yankees guys are just taking over YouTube. And I'm sick of it, and I'm not going to take it anymore. That's a joke, by the way. One of the most unfortunate things about the Yankees, and again, I'm going to do a video about this, is what good dudes that I've met off of YouTube that are all Yankees fans. And it really kind of hurts my feelings, because as a Cardinals fan, the only team that has won more World Series than the Cardinals is who? You guessed it, the Yankees. So a little bit of this comes from jealousy. So I like to give Yankees fans a hard time, but they're all such good dudes, it makes it hard to do that. You're talking about Rocket Rick J and Lou Rock and Darren from Return to Collecting, and Greg Midlife Cards. Like, just so many great, and I'm leaving a bunch out, but so many great Yankees fans on YouTube. So again, the more involved I get in the card community, and especially the YouTube card community, the more fun that I'm having within the hobby. So thank you everyone involved with making that happen. So speaking of card community, tomorrow I'm going to hang out with my buddy Justin that was here a few weeks ago. He coaches wrestling at my high school. He's a dealer, sets up at shows. I'm going to go hang out with him tomorrow and check out his collection. And then Sunday, I'm going to go hang out with my buddy Tom in the morning down in Jeff City. So Tom is a vintage guy like I am, but Tom has a whole bunch of kind of early to mid 80s and later cards that he wants to start sending in for grading. And Tom usually grades vintage. And so Tom wants me to go down there and look at a bunch of his cards and help him evaluate them to figure out what it is that he should grade and shouldn't grade depending on the card and what grade we think it's going to get. So I'm excited about that because anytime I can talk about cards or look at cards, like, I'm good. I'm in my element. So speaking of talking about cards, so I want to talk a little bit today, and this is kind of just an idea that I had in passing that, as most of the time I haven't fully, as usual, I haven't fully developed. So I hope that my point comes across clearly. But what I'm wondering, and you all can help me out wherever you're from, if you have local card shows that you go to, or maybe regional card shows that are, 100, 150 tables or smaller, it's amazing to me, and again, I'm spitballing here. I'm trying to put my thoughts together all at once. So, like, I love stuff. Well, I love baseball cards, but the stuff from the 80s and the junk wax era and later, that is really what I grew up watching, were those players and the cards I grew up collecting. And I really do think that in some cases, overproduced or not scarce, rare cards can be hard to find in certain circumstances. So, of course, you can go onto eBay and you can look up pretty much any card under the sun. And if they made more than a couple hundred of those, like, you can find them. Like, pretty much everything is on eBay. But if you're a collector or a collector that goes to local shows or regional shows, sometimes those cards get a little bit harder to find. And that, in my mind, there are a few factors that make it difficult to pick up those types of cards. And the first one would be the price that you're finding them at. And the second one would be the eye appeal you're finding them in. So I'll start showing you examples. So a 1983 Topps Tony Gwynn is not a rare card. It's not the junk wax era. They didn't print them to the moon like they would maybe in 88 or 89, but they're not rare or hard to find either, right? And so they didn't overproduce them like they did later in the junk wax era. But these, you don't see cards, you don't see Tony Gwynn rookie cards at every show you go to. And so I bought this one from, again, my buddy Chris from Missouri. I don't know, in 2019, 2020, somewhere around there. It was one of the earliest cards I bought off of him at a card show. And this has really nice eye appeal for a 9. You all know the centering issues with this card. And this one is centered and it has great eye appeal. And it was also priced well. So is it hard to find these cards in the wild at shows or whatever? It's not hard to find them. You don't see them a lot, but a lot of times when you see them, they'll either be really off-centered or they'll be overpriced. So I think that even though that's not a rare card, the circumstances that come together to allow you to purchase that card can be unique or difficult or challenging to have everything come together. If memory serves me right, and I'm not an investor, so I don't talk about pop count a lot on my channel, but if I'm not mistaken, I think there are about 4,000 of this card graded in a 9. I think maybe roughly 1,000 or so, maybe less, that are graded in 10s. And if you guys know the pop count, feel free to let me know in the comments. But you know, there are, let's say in the ballpark, you know, 6,000 to 8,000 of this card graded in 9s and 10s. Like, this is not a hard card to find, but it's hard to find in a 9 or a 10 when you compare the overall population of this card, because a lot of them are going to be so off-centered that they grade as 8s. Some of them are going to be so off-centered that they grade as 7s. So this is not a rare card, but to a certain extent, the condition, the grade, makes it rare. So it's almost like the modern manufactured scarcity with serially controlled cards based off of parallels or different types of refractors, except this is manufactured scarcity just because of the condition of the cards, because the centering and all that stuff was so tough, because the cards were so poorly made from this era. So these types of cards can be pretty hard to find. Now, I'm sure if you go to eBay, they have hundreds of them on eBay for sale right now. But if you're a guy who likes to buy cards in person, it can be tough to find this type of stuff at the kind of shows we go to anyway. I mean, I'm sure if you're going to the East Coast National or the Dallas show or some of these bigger shows, like, I'm sure you can find them there. But between Columbia, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, and St. Louis, Missouri, these aren't cards you see everywhere. And here's another example, and this is during the, maybe not the peak of the junk wax era, but this is definitely into the junk wax era. And these cards maybe weren't produced as much as the regular top set that year, because it was tops traded, as you all know, in a box set. But as far as I know, this is the only PSA 10 of this card that I have ever seen at a show. And I want to say there are somewhere probably between 5,000 and 10,000 of these graded in a 10, I think, off the top of my head. So finding this with good eye appeal for the right price, that's not going to happen at every show you go to. And here's another one. Frank Thomas. Now, actually, my wife did buy this for me at eBay, off of eBay, and I bought both of these at shows. But here's another example of a card you're not going to find at every show in a 10. And there are thousands of these in 9s and 10s, like probably, I don't know, 10, 20,000 of these in 9s and 10s. So it's not a scarce card, right in the middle of the junk wax era. But again, it's not a card you see every day at a show. Here's another one. And this is a card you can find at shows, but a lot of times they're really off center because, again, just the quality control aspect of things. So you might find this commonly in a 7 or an 8. I don't find them in 9s a whole lot, especially that have good eye appeal, just because this card is very known for being off center. And maybe part of it is some of these aren't really that desirable of cards, like this one, because it's Roger Clemens, and he may never get into the Hall of Fame because of PEDs. But this isn't a card that I see very often graded at shows. I don't see this card very often ungraded at shows, and these are probably bargain box cards. And to be honest with you, at least this one is, I don't spend a lot of time digging through bargain boxes looking for cards. Maybe I should, but I don't remember seeing these at shows. Now, this one I got out of a set that I bought off of eBay back in, I don't know, 2011, 2010. and sent it in to get graded, and it happened to grade a 9. But this isn't a card I see very often at shows. Maybe I already have one and I don't look for it. But let me know what you guys think. Are these cards, are these cards that you run into frequently at shows? And if you do you go to smaller local shows, or are you going to bigger regional shows that might be 150 tables or more? So here's another one, Derek Jeter. Now, this one I do see from time to time, but usually when I see it, it's way overpriced. It's, probably usually 30 or not 30, 40 or $50. And this is like a $30 card. And maybe that's the Yankee factor, because again, the Yankees are so popular that people tend to try to charge a premium for Yankees cards. But this one I bought off of Got Baseball Cards off of their eBay page, and I think I paid like $30 for it. So a lot of these you can find on eBay very easily, but they're a little bit harder to find. At least for me, with the eye appeal that I'm looking for in the price range that I'm looking for. I don't know what the pop count on this is, but this is 93, so this is the last year of the air quotes junk wax era. But I mean, did they produce any less in 94 than they did in 93? Because those cars definitely weren't hard to find back then. But to find a centered one in that card gives it kind of a little bit more of not a premium, but makes it a little bit harder to find. Here's another example. Derek Jeter's Bowman rookie. Now this one, if I'm not mistaken, I bought ungraded off of eBay and sent it in, and it got a 9.5. But this isn't a card I see a lot at shows. And then, like, you can't say that Derek Jeter and Albert Pujols aren't desired players. You could maybe say that, other than, for Greg at Midlife Cards, that maybe Roger Clemens isn't quite as desirable. But these are still not cards you see often, at least I don't, at shows. And so, if I'm not mistaken, I've maybe seen, maybe I'm going to the wrong shows, but I remember I've probably seen in the ballpark of 20 of this Albert Pujols card. And again, with a lot of these, because we live close to St. Louis, a lot of the times this is a way overpriced card when you do see them at shows. And this card also has centering issues. This one, as a matter of fact, is off-centered a little bit, left to right. But it's subtle enough to where it doesn't really bother me. I notice it, but it doesn't bother me. So how can these cards, that some of them are overproduced, like during the junk wax era, how can they be hard to find at shows in the eye appeal that you want, or the grade that you want, or the price that you want? Because again, these aren't cards that I see every day. Like, now again, this isn't in the junk wax era. They weren't printing these to the moon, but it's still in person at shows. Again, not a card that you see every day. So, like, I'm a guy that I will buy a card off of eBay if it's a card that I don't see as often in person at shows that I really want, or I think that this is a better deal buying it off of eBay than I can find at a show. And normally that's not the case, but those are the examples. Those are the times where I will buy a card off of eBay. But if you're a guy that doesn't buy off of eBay, like my buddy Tom prefers to buy cards at shows. I prefer to buy cards at shows too. But if you're a guy that really doesn't shop on eBay or ComC or whatever, like, do you have a hard time finding these types of cards at your local shows? And if you do, and they're cards that you really want, do you like bump them down on your list and just, or keep them on your list and wait until you see one that you want at a show? Or do you just go ahead and go on eBay and kind of bite the bullet, so to speak, and buy it that way? Because, for example, my next card that I'm looking to pick up, hopefully my next big card, is a Roberto Clemente rookie card. And, kind of the range I'm looking at, just because of the budget aspect, is in the 3 range, because that's what fits within my budget. In that ballpark. Would I buy a really nice 2 like with my Hank Aaron? Absolutely I would, if I could find one. That is a card that I can find at local shows. I can find those in Columbia. There was one last, or weekend before last, that I went to at a show in Columbia with Chris and Tom and Coop and Jason showed up, and Mauricio were all there. There were Roberto Clemente rookie cards there, but they were either way out of my budget range because of grade, or they didn't meet my eye appeal. And I don't have the money right now anyway, but I'm just doing my initial kind of surveying and my homework. But all the ones I saw that were lower grade were really, really off-centered, lots of creases, just issue with the cards that, made me, if I would have had the money, I wouldn't have bought them. Or they were, much higher grade that I can't afford anyway. So, that's a card, excuse me, that's a card that when the time comes that I'm ready to go ahead and buy a Roberto Clemente card, I'm probably going to have to buy that at the National or at Strongsville if I want to buy it in person at a show. But really, the odds of me finding that with the eye appeal and stuff that I'm looking for in my price range would actually be better if I were to hunt for it on eBay. Just because, sorry, we just ate dinner not long ago. I've got the hiccups. The odds of me finding that card in my budget and my desired eye appeal is way better on eBay. Again, I would prefer to buy it at a show, because then you have the whole show experience. You're with your buddies, you're buying it physically off a dealer, you've got it in your hand, you can inspect it. Many, many reasons to buy a card in person at a show. But in certain circumstances and certain shows, I can have difficulty finding a specific card that I'm looking to pick up. And these aren't always cards that are hard to find. Even cards from the 60s, from the 60s set. I was wanting to pick up one of those at the show in Columbia. And the show in Columbia has, limited vintage dealers, but usually the ones that are there have some pretty good cards. And if I remember correctly, I didn't find any cards graded from the 60 set. And if I did, I don't remember it. So that tells me they were either too low of a grade or too low of eye appeal for the grade, or they were overpriced and I didn't seriously consider buying them. So the 60 cards from the 60 set, they're not produced like stuff from the junk wax era, but they're not rare, but they can be hard to find that match eye appeal and price, and everything lines up all together at once. And I guess really for me, I've made the comment recently that sometimes the card finds you. The card you're looking for finds you. And that was the case with my Hank Aaron at the National. That was the case with my Lou Brock rookie that I bought in St. Louis a year or two ago. That was the case with my Mickey Mantle Topps Giants that I just bought. I didn't go there looking to buy a Mickey Mantle Topps Giants, that's the card that just jumped out at me. The price was right, it met the right eye appeal, and that was the card that I decided I was going to take home with me that day. So, as much as I like to plan and prepare and organize and think about, future pickups, because I have to be, very deliberate with my hobby dollars, as much as I plan that, sometimes things don't always work out the way we plan them to, especially at shows. And in that case, I have a hard time leaving a show without a card. Now, if there was just nothing that I wanted, nothing that suited my eye appeal, then I would absolutely leave a show with money. But a lot of times when a card does jump out at me because it meets my eye appeal and it fits price wise, I'll go ahead and buy that card, and it may not even be a card that I'm considering. So I just wanted to give my thoughts on that. Let me know what you think. Do you go with a dedicated list like I did at the National that you do not vary off of? Do you buy cards off of eBay? Do you buy cards at shows? And what do you do if you can't find a card that you're looking for at a show? Do you go ahead and then just circle back and go back to eBay and buy the card off of eBay? Because that's, in some cases, I have bought cards off of eBay. Now, would I, if I'm going to spend $800 or a big chunk of money on a card, I would rather do that in person so I can hold the card in my hand and inspect it and all that stuff like I've talked about before. But I'm more likely to buy a bigger card off of eBay now than I was maybe a few years ago because of the authenticity guarantee, or a dealer accepts returns. Like, there's not as much risk in that. So to me, if I order a bigger card, buy a bigger card off of eBay, and then I get it in my hand and it doesn't match my idea of the eye appeal that I thought I was going to get from the pictures, and I know I can send that card back, then I'm more likely to go ahead and buy it off of eBay. But I definitely prefer to do it at shows because I'm supporting the local hobby. I'm supporting local dealers. And a lot of these guys set up at all the local shows, and, some of them I know. So I would much rather buy a card off of them than off of some random dude off of eBay. But it can be a challenge at the size shows that we go to find the specific card that I'm looking for. So sometimes it requires me to be a little bit more adaptable, be more flexible in my plan, and either come home with no card or come home with a card that isn't on my list that maybe I wasn't looking for at the show. And to be honest with you, that can be a lot of fun. Like when I went to the show where I bought my Lou Brock rookie, I wasn't looking for a Lou Brock rookie. I was focused on cards for the 60 set at that show. And then the Lou Brock rookie jumped out at me very early at the show, and it was in the first corner. Like, we walked in, made a right, went down that aisle, and then boom, in this corner is the Lou Brock rookie. And I told Tom, I'm like, man, I really like that card. It's a little high, but if he's willing to deal on it, like I'll buy it. And I did 2 laps around the entire show trying to find another card that I liked better than that Lou Brock, and couldn't find it. Luckily, the Lou Brock was still there. And I think it was there because he was so high on a sticker price. He was $375 on a sticker price. Comps were, I think, at $290 at the time. And I told him, I'm like, recent comps are right around $290. I'll give you $300. And he went down from $375 down to $300, and he took it. But maybe that's why that card was still there for me to buy at $300. If it was priced cheaper, he probably would have sold it already. And that goes back to what you've heard a lot of YouTubers say. When you're at a show, especially like the National, and you find a card that you really want, then go ahead and buy it. Don't think about it, because when you come back around, it may not be there. So I enjoy buying cards at shows. I enjoy buying cards off of eBay. I enjoy buying cards, period. And of course, I would much rather buy them at shows, but sometimes that can be difficult. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up with that. Again, give me your thoughts. Do you guys ever have frustrations or maybe difficulties finding a specific card that you're looking at a show, or finding it with your desired eye appeal or budget or whatever the case may be? I would imagine if you're a guy that collects pretty much nothing but pre-war stuff, like if you're going to a 100 table, a 100 table show or a 50 table show, unless you just have amazing dealers set up at those shows that you're going to, I bet you it's difficult to pick those up at shows from time to time. So anyway, that's just what I wanted to talk about today. Again, feel free to give me your thoughts in the feedback or in the comments. Feel free to give me your feedback in the comments if you want to put it that way. That works too. And again, please go check out Blick's Cards if you haven't already, and give him a shot. Check out his videos. If you like him, please subscribe to him. He's a great dude. And then the same with Joe from Redneck Collector. He's at 6 subscribers now. He's got 1 video out. Let's go show these guys some support and help grow their channel. So thank you everyone for your support once again at my channel, and I appreciate everyone. I appreciate the YouTube card community. Whether you make videos or you watch mine and you comment, thank you. And I'll wrap it up at that. So until the next one, I hope everybody has a good one, and I'll talk to you later.